All right, getting started on another week. As you can see, I've already kind of cleared out some of the trash and stuff that was under here, and I've been digging out. You can kind of see the daylight poking through under the house there. I've been outside and inside digging a trench out there so that we can get our main sewer line run out there. So I'm going to get started on this plumbing on these drain lines and see what I can get done today. I need to get the drain lines done, need to get the water lines run, and I need to get the main power in here so I can get all this subfloor finished up and get started on the stairway back to the upstairs. So that's the plan for this week. Okay, so I wanted to kind of clear up something I mentioned in the last video that I was using all-purpose glue for my drain lines over there, and it was just what I had left. So this stuff is kind of expensive, and it doesn't shelf life very well. Once you've opened it, no matter how tight you put that lid back on, it's going to dry out. And so I had about a half a can of this left, but I bought a new can to finish this off with of regular PVC cement. So if you're going to be doing plumbing, you want to know the difference. So this one is made only for the white PVC drain lines. This one, as I mentioned, is the all-purpose, and it is meant for the white PVC. It is meant for the black ABS that you see in some parts of the country that the white PVC and the black are drain lines, primarily. Sometimes the white will be used in some places for water supply lines, water pressure, but mostly you'll see the kind of off-white, cream-colored, what's called CPVC, and this is also good for that. This is not good for that. This is. So if you're doing supply lines in CPVC and you're doing drain lines in white PVC, this is kind of a good thing to have so you don't have to switch back and forth. They do make a glue that is just for CPVC. I believe it's orange. There's also a specific cement for just the black ABS that you don't want to use on white PVC. So the multi-purpose is kind of handy to have, but you want to make sure you use the right thing, because if you use the wrong one on the wrong thing, it won't hold. If you use this on the CPVC for your water lines, which are under pressure, sometimes 40 to 60 PSI, depending on where you live, it may not hold. It could blow apart. It might hold, it might not. It might hold for 5 years and then blow apart. You just never know. So you just want to make sure that when you are doing plumbing that you get the right product for the right pipe. So now that that's all cleared up, I'm going to get back to work. Okay, so a couple other things real quick. When you are doing drain lines, you want to make sure everything's flowing the right way. So when you have a line like here that intersects into this other line, you have what's called a sanitary T, which means that it doesn't just come straight in, it has this sweep that forces the water to turn. So you want that always to be pointing toward the exit of your building. So as the water comes in from here, it's obviously going to sweep it that way. So where that's intersecting there, I have one that's going that way that is turning the water to go out. It's very important. Sometimes you get confused and you put them in backwards, and then that later on causes problems because your slope is like this, and you get water that comes in here and tries to go uphill and then come back, and that does not work out well for your plumbing. That's how you get solids left in your pipes where the water has to stop and whatever it's carrying has to stop with it. So that's one important thing. And then the other important thing is when you're cutting your pipes is that you want to make sure that you don't leave any burrs. I'm using a circular saw, so it makes a pretty clean cut, but some people use hacksaws or different kinds of saws, and it'll actually leave little burrs in here. And you want to make sure that if you have those, to take a knife or something and cut those out, because when you put these pipes together, if you have burrs in there, you got shower drains and things, you're going to have hair in them, other things that may be going down drains from sinks. If you have a garbage disposer or things like that, you're going to end up with some solids going down there, and those solids will catch on those burrs and cause a blockage, and you don't want that. So you want to make sure your pipes are clean. You want to make sure that everything's flowing the right direction. It's not hard. It just requires thinking about what you're doing as you're doing it. So just keep those things in mind when you're doing plumbing. All right. One other thing about plumbing that's very important. You plan everything out, you draw it out, you figure out everything you're going to need. You go to the store, you pick up all your parts and fittings, you get started, and then you run out of parts that you needed. So then you're back at the store to get what you actually needed. All right, so I know this is going to be a little bit difficult to kind of figure out where we are here, especially if you're not familiar with this house. If you're not family, you've never been here, you don't know anything about this. But you may remember in the very first video when I did the walkthrough, I'm standing in the living room. There was a wall that divided right here, and there's a bedroom over here, bathroom back there. Maybe that helps. Anyway, there used to be a wood stove that sat right in this corner of the living room. The flue hole is, well, it's gone now, but you can see some burnt marks there where things got hot a couple of times. Anyway, so to keep with the original look, the plan is to put a gas fireplace or freestanding stove right there where that wood stove used to be, just so it kind of keeps the original look, and you don't have to deal with bringing in firewood and all that mess. It's just a nice thing you can turn on when you want it. So how we're going to do that is we have to run a gas line, and so from here, right on the back side where this plumbing is coming through, this area here is going to be under the stairway. So the stairway will run right here, and so all this area will be, this is where that old water heater was sitting, in here, if you'll remember from a few videos back. So my plan is to do all the utilities under the stairway. So I have this flexible gas line, and I'm going to feed it down through that hole under the joist this way, and then go out under the foundation right there. And then that can run out to the propane tank when that time comes. So here we go. Alright, so we're coming out just under the sill of the wall, and I'll do my best to get that down in there, and then we'll probably make a transition here somewhere because this really is only meant to be used inside, so we will transition it to a pipe that can be buried and probably run out 10 or 20 feet away from the house at some point, wherever the propane tank will sit. But for now, I'm just gonna leave it like that. May actually kind of take it back here just to kind of keep it out of the weather a little bit. I don't know. So I'm standing in the back doorway. So right here is where the stairway will go. There's the opening right there. So what I'm doing is under these joists, I need to do that one still. I'm putting some stones under there to make sure that those don't settle. Because this is about a almost 15-foot span across here. I'm using 2x8s, so in most places they're going to hold up pretty well. Some places they're even still partially doubled from the older joist. So I'm not too worried about the span there, except for right here where these walls are going to sit on top of these joists and the load from the stairs. So it's not truly load bearing in the sense that it's holding up the house, but it is going to be supporting a wall and the stairs. And so I just wanted to give it a little bit of extra structure underneath there. So I'm jacking these joists up, getting them level with one another, and then putting some stones under there to hold them in place. Well, this is as far as I can go with the subfloor for now. I guess maybe I could put in one piece right here. But my plan is to bring water and electric in underneath this doorway from outside. So it'll come across the yard. The well house is over there, so water will come in here. Electric is on around the corner. So my plan is to trench that out, bring the water in under here, and it will go up under the stairway. So I need to leave that open so I can dig this out right here. But I've got enough done here that I can build the stairs up to there. Before I can start building stairs, I still need to get some of this junk torn off of here because I need to be able to get my stair stringers up against these ceiling joists here over there. So all that railing is going to have to come off, and that carpet that's rolled over the edge and whatever's behind there, and I got to be able to get back to those joists. And then I think I'm going to kind of redo this little landing up here just to make it a little bit better. So that's what I'm going to get started on here. All right, so now that I'm thinking about stairs, when we think about stairs, we need to know our total rise and our total run. So when you're figuring up stairs, there's kind of some basic principles. A comfortable stair height is about 7 or 7.5 inches. So if you want your stairs to be comfortable, you want to aim for that. The problem I have here is that to get that high in that amount of distance, I can't do a 7 or 7.5 inch step. If I did that, it would be like all the way out to the door. So when you're working with space constraints, you have to figure it out. Now the old stairs were like, each step was like 11 or 12 inches tall, which was really steep, and you see that a lot in old houses. But I'm going to try to make these a little more comfortable. So I'm going to show you how I do that. In the old days, you had to do all the math and figure out with a framing square and all that how you wanted to do it. But nowadays, we have these handy little calculators online. And so I'll show you how that works. Okay, so there's lots of different options you can use. You just go to Google or whatever your favorite search engine is and type in stair calculator, and you'll come up with all kinds of different ones. So this one that I like to use has an automatic stair calculator. So it's pretty simple. You type in the green box your total rise. So I can do that here, which is 105.25. And then you say you want your step to be around 7 inches. They're going to be, if you're going to use a 2x12 or 2x10 for a tread, you're looking at 1.5 inches. And then you want your tread depth to be 10.5 inches, which is a comfortable step for a person's foot. And then you hit calculate, and it tells you all this information down here, but it tells me my total run is 147 inches. My problem is I only have 120 inches, so that's not going to work. You keep scrolling down, it gives you kind of the diagram. All the blue numbers are the measurements that you need. You can also determine whether you want a standard step, which is where the stringer sits down from the main platform above the length of a step, or if you push flush, it brings it up flat. So that's actually how I'm going to do this one, is a flush stringer. But this one is not going to work for me. So if I keep scrolling down, you find the manual stair calculator. So this one you can enter in all of your strict parameters, and it will tell you the rest. So Total rise is 105 1/4. Total run is 120. Number of steps, I'm going to shoot for 12 and see what that does. And tread thickness is 1.5 inches. And then I push calculate, and I have it set to flush already. So it's telling me that my step height is going to be 8 3/4 of an inch. The depth is going to be 10 inches. I'm going to have 12 steps. Height of the first step is 7 1/4, and so on. And so then it gives me my diagram down here, and you can see here where my top step is even with the top of the platform. So in the first example, the target depth was 10 1/2. So I've got 10 inches here. Still pretty comfortable to put your foot on. And then your step height is 8 3/4, which is a little more than common, but it's still doable. It's definitely not the 12 inches that it was before, so it'll be more comfortable than that. But it's a little higher than, it's basically like stepping on a cinder block with a piece of plywood on it. So it's really not too bad, and as long as they're all the same length or height, I guess, then you get used to it. It's pretty comfortable. So I think this is what I'm going to go with. So that's how you design that out. Like I said, in the old days, you had to actually figure up all the math. This is just so much easier. It just gives it to you. So this is what I use for that. Okay, so on my stairs, I have a rise of 8 3/4 inches and a run of 10 inches. Now, normally you would use a framing square, but I don't have mine with me today, so instead I have this piece of the siding from outside. And so this is just a trick you can do. It has a square cut here. So if I go 10 inches this way and 8 3/4 this way, and then I mark a line. All right, so then I can just take that and put it right up against my 2x12 and then mark around it. That gives me my template. So let me get this laid out here. Okay, so then this is the top of the stairs. It might actually be easier if I come around here. So you're looking at your rise and your run coming up here. So at the top, I actually need to bring this line down like this. So then all this will get cut off, and this edge right here is what will get nailed to that header up there, and then from here, this is where we'll start our stairs going down. So this is actually just waste, and I could have brought this on out to the corner, but I got a little crack right here that I was trying to stay out of, so I moved it down. I've got plenty of space here. So when I come down here to the bottom, and I'll have to measure because I just marked, I didn't actually count, but whichever one of these is the bottom, I'll kind of do the same thing. I'll just mark back this way, and that will set down onto the floor. All right, so I was gonna lean that up there, show you what it was gonna look like, which still kind of can, but it didn't want to stay where it was supposed to, so I set it up on top. But it gives you an idea what our stairs are gonna look like. Still gonna be a little bit steep, but not as bad as they were before. And the other thing is on these, so I got that one all laid out and cut out. I could use the same method on the next ones, but since the wood's not perfect and I'm not perfect and the saw's not perfect, those notches are not probably all exactly consistent. They're not exactly going to be all the same, or there's probably some variations. But so what I'll do is I'll take that one back down, lay it on top of this one, and use that one to mark it out. Use that one as a template for the next two, and then they should at least be as close as possible. And then I'll put them all three up there and start putting the treads across them, and I'll be able to go up there. All right, well, that wraps up another week. I got all the drain lines done in here. Everything is done to the outside. All the water lines are ran, with the exception of the main line coming in. And then I also need to bring the electrical service in, which, like I said, is going to come in under that stairway. You can see I have one stringer in place. I have another one cut, and I was going to do the third one and try to get those up, but my saw blade is not doing so well, so it's really struggling to get through on those angle cuts. So I need to get a new blade and be ready for next week, get all my batteries charged up. So sometime next week I will be bringing in the backhoe and digging in the water and electric service. So getting further along, and it'd be nice to have electric in here. I maybe get some fans going on these hot days. So had one suggestion to go ahead and put the air conditioning in and work in here with no insulation and just have the air conditioner going, which might be nice, but that's a long way off yet. So yeah, so next week we'll get that done, and then we will definitely be working on tearing out that upstairs next week. So I know not a lot of change as far as the way it looks this week, but next week will be big changes. So stay tuned.